Hello and welcome to this tier list for the first five Stormlight Archives books. I've read them all. I've enjoyed them, and I was thinking, you know what? I was thinking about this all night. I was like, let me make a list of how I would rank them as I go through the books. Now I'm gonna be putting the books in chronologically, from one to five, and I'm gonna put them. And the rank is gonna change based on like each book where I'm gonna put it there. So we're gonna start off with Way of Kings. So obviously, as it's the first book and the first one we've read, it goes to first place. Now, again, this is going to change as I add books, but Way of Kings is a great book. It's a great entry point to the series. It's really well done. I really like the way the story works out. Where we see Kaladin's like move through the funk, the depression he's in from slavery, and the bridge, like the story of the bridge. I loved it. I thought that was the best part of it. And on the other side, you have Dalinar battling through, like, hey, am I going crazy? Am I not? And his son is also there. His sons. There's all this politics, and there's like you see like the layers, right? There's this bottom class slaves who are used as fodder and just badly treated. And you have this top class of the generals and the leaders and the kings and how they're working together and kind of using the lives of the slaves, like as ammunition against each other. And the way the two stories later on combine into that epic, the fantastic ending. By the way, like there is a lot in Way of Kings that to enjoy. It's the way also like the crew slowly starts believing in themselves. It's great. It's great. I loved Way of Kings. I read it on a trip. I was like on an island for 4 days, and I was with friends, but we have a lot of free time, and I took this book with me. I went to the library. I was like, oh, okay, the cover looked cool. I was like, oh wait, I put word. That's the Words of Radiance. Way of Kings. This is the Way of Kings. Yeah, I remember. I was like, the cover looked good. I really enjoyed it, so I bought it, and then I read it throughout, and I was like, wow, this is really good. I really enjoyed it. There were a few quirks with this book that maybe makes me like, eh. One thing is, firstly, is that when we start off, it's very much like there's a lot of time skips and it's very confusing. Firstly, you start off with the heralds abandoning their swords, and you're like, okay, that like I didn't understand what's going on. Then you go to the assassination of the king, and that was very confusing because then there's lashing, stormlight, surges, shard plate, like there's a bunch of names come out, Restaris, and I'm like, what the hell? It's very confusing. And then you go to another time skip, which is Kaladin the army. And then you go to another time skip, which is him being a slave. And then you go through flashbacks. So there's a lot where you're like, whoa, wait. Like, can we just slow down so I can digest? So I think this is great. I imagine that if you're a first time reader, I mean, everyone is going to be at some point. The first 70 pages or whatever, they're confusing. And I can't blame a lot of people for being like, yo, I don't know what's going on. And maybe that's a bit of a put off. Now that we read, we're like, wow, this is interesting stuff. We know what happened. But for a first time reader, it was very disorienting. So that's one negative against it. And the second one was, I did enjoy some of Shallan's chapters, but I thought they were very removed from what I felt was the main story, which was Kaladin and Dalinar. And she was like really off in the other side of the world. I was like, oh, Yasna, she's a colon. Oh, so I guess they're related. But I don't like it, and I don't like when books do that, when firstly you're overloading me with information. And I'm barely able to keep my attention, not attention, but like I can barely focus on one location at a time. And then you're giving me a whole other content with a whole different unrelated group of characters to this group. They are related, but they're not related right now. So Way of Kings is great, but I felt like those two like negatives go against the book. So it's still a fantastic book overall. The next one goes into Words of Radiance. Now, for a lot of people, this is their favorite book, and I can see why. Words of Radiance has a lot of firstly, it has fantastic build-up. I really enjoy the build-up of this book. Like, there's a lot of good content. There's like the relationship with Kaladin and Adolin as how it develops. Dalinar's trust in Kaladin. There's him trying to be like, these the new Rites Radiance, they're not it. There's Shallan and Adelin's romance, which is kind of cool. Her training. I didn't mention it, but I thought her backstory, honestly, slightly more than Kaladin, I liked it. I really enjoyed like the family dynamic, the darkness, the mystery. I thought the scene at the end, her last one, where well, again, there are gonna be spoilers, so hopefully you're okay with it. But I thought the scene where she kills her dad and sings to him the song that he was singing to her, damn, like come on, how good was that? Like that was insanely good. I'm not like that was just amazing. I didn't think anything Kaladin had was. Later, he had some stuff that were really good, but none of his flashback I feel like hit me that hard as her, killing her dad to protect her family. Like how that's great. Obviously, it also has the duel of four, and which is great. And you also see like everyone was doing something. Dalinar was gonna join in. Shan used pattern. Renarin jumps in. Kaladin helps him fight off. Like there are so many moving parts, and that to me was the peak of the story. Uh, Unfortunately, Words of Radiance, while it does do a lot right, there are a couple of flaws for me in the story. Firstly, it's introduced the singer's point of view, the Venli and Ishonai. I hope that's how it's pronounced. And I watched it, I was reading it, and I was like, it's fine. But, and I knew it was the other side of the war, but I really didn't care too much about it. I don't know, it never really, I don't know, I just didn't really like it so much. Again, it was like more information on another side of the war. And I was still trying to connect the strings together and figure things out. I also thought that of the Sander Lanches, the ending, while a lot happened, this for me was one of the least emotionally gripping ones. I thought the first one was great. I thought Oathbringer and Rhythm War were also great Sandlights. But this one, for some reason, I read the ending and I was like, it's very good, very entertaining, but I thought the other Sandalages were just better. So, despite the great build-up and fantastic, like this is one of the books where I felt like it was really well balanced, well paced, good in the middle and the start. Somehow the ending didn't strike me as well, and because of that, I actually put Words of Radiance second. Oh, there you go. But after Way of Kings. Way of Kings is, in my opinion, the better book of the two, the better story. So now we're going to go to the third one, Oathbringer. Oh, Oathbringer is my favorite. So you guys already know where it's going to go. Oathbringer is the best paced book of the first trilogy. Let's call it that. Now, some people I've seen, they're like, oh, the middle doesn't happen too much. I'm like, really? You mean the assault on the castle is not much? The death of, I guess you could say, one of the most major characters, probably the biggest death in the books until then. And I don't know that some people are like, well, yeah, there's a lot of build up towards it. We're in there in Aleth, what's it called? The capital. I forgot what it's called. And they're not doing too much. I agree with that. They're kind of moving around. I was like, all right, that's fine. But I still think that there's a lot of strength to this. Firstly, as I mentioned, it's very well paced. There is a good middle, the assault, and there's a good ending. So it's not like one of those other books where you feel like, oh, everything's very on the back end. The first 80% not much happens. The last 20% of the books where everything happens. So this was very well paced. There's two major cataclysmic events. I like that. I like the overall plot, Dalinar bringing everyone together and trying to get them to work together. That was really nice for me, and his past, his relationship with the Stormfather was also fantastic because it's the most antagonistic of the Spren to human relationship. And I liked it the most because of that. But in general, this was Dalinar's book, and he shows up big time. He's just fantastic in this one. Not only that, but the Sandwich, the ending, this one was the best, where he summons sort of all of them to show up and in Thalen Field and they fight. I am unity, can't have my pain. The way in the castle, the singers and the humans fight, but Kaladin doesn't want to kill either. He's like, I don't want to do this. Come on, the oath, the near oath, that was one of the best. Sorry about this, I'm going to have to drink a little bit of water. So, honestly, Oathbringer was slightly slow paced, but it still had so many good parts. We can see a lot of Taravangian. This chapter where he's brilliant again was fantastic. You can see a lot of Odium. I know that we talked about two Kaladins, but there's one vision where Dalinar has it, and he brings in Venli, and Odium interferes, and Dalinar is he holds a pillar for him and Venli, and Odium's just shattering everything else. And that's still one of the most iconic images for me, which is him with holding on a half a tower, whatever. Basically I got that he was holding the ground from shattering and protecting himself and Venli. And I thought, Again, it was so good, that chapter. Lift is introduced in this one. I like her a lot. And in just Oathbringer is perfect. So Oathbringer goes into first place, brings down Way of Kings to second, and Oathbringer, yeah, there you go. Good art as well. All right, now we're going to go to Rhythm of War. At this point in the Stormlight Archive, I was fully invested because book one, I bought it like I was going on an airport, in the airport, so I bought it and read it. Way of Kings, Words of Radiance. I was like, I went to a library. I was like, oh yeah, I read the first one. Let me read the second one. Oathbringer, same. I bought maybe a year after it came out, but after Oathbringer, I was heavy. I was all in on Stormlight Archives. So Rhythm of War comes out. I order it. I pick it up 2 days after it's like available globally, and I devoured it in 2 days, something like that. And I felt that Rhythm of War was the opposite of Words of Radiance, in that Rhythm of War had, to me, one of the more boring build-ups. I gotta say, I did not enjoy it that much. It's like Kaladin's in the tower doing his Die Hard thing, and you can separate the books by the gems that they find. There's like 4 of them. I was like, okay, fine. But and Dalinar and Yasna are off in a war that I personally felt was kind of meaningless. You know, I was like, oh, okay, they're off somewhere. It's the way of the story to pull them out. You know, that's what I like. It was like, oh, we need them out of the tower. We're gonna give them this. And you're like, fine. Where the hell was Adolin in this one? Adolin was doing the trial with Shallan. That was actually pretty good. But still, for most of the book, not much happens. Now, I did enjoy Navani's chapters, not the science part. Some people were like, oh, I like the science. I'm like, really? You like how she describes light and sound? I never understood that part. They're like, they harmonized the rhythm and came out in the beautiful music, the tones of Roshar. And I'm reading them like, unless you include an audio sample, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then they're like, oh, the new light, it's beyond purple. And you're like, so ultraviolet, which we can't see, great. I don't know that. But the political one with her and Rebonile, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Navani, that was fantastic. And Navani believing in herself, like she to me was the star of this book. I know it was Venli's flashback which to me was the weakest, by the way, but Navani she carried most of this book on her back. And then you get to maybe the most emotional for me, Sanderlanche, which is, again, there's going to be spoilers, skip, but firstly you have David's chapter, mwah, beautiful. You have Teft's death, I die knowing I'm loved. Oh, and then after that you had Tien's death. Like Kaladin, when he remembers he's falling, he's committing suicide, and then I was like, slow down time, do it. And he forces the Stormfather, which I loved, great moment for him, connects him to the spirit of his brother, and his brother is like, yo, I know they were gonna die, but I wanted to be there for them so they don't die scared. And I cried, I was like, holy shit, that's too good. It comes after Teft's death as well, like what? And then after this, you have Dalinar against Ishar with the Windrunners. It's not like a very action-packed, but still one of my favorite engagements, where he opens the perpendicularity, and Ishar's like, I'm taking that, and Sazeth goes in with Nightblood, just shatters the link between them. Fantastic. Then Odium goes into Dalinar. Like, it's so good. The ending of Rhythm of War, in my opinion, if it's not above Oathbringer, it is the same level. It is that good. Unfortunately, the rest of the book isn't that good. It's just too weak for the rest of the book, whereas the other 3 all have things to look forward to. Way of Kings, great build-up. Then Words of Radiance has the arena duels. Oathbringer has the assault on the palace, where these are big iconic moments. Rhythm of War has nothing for most of it until the end, which is still one of the strongest endings. So Rhythm of War goes into 4th place. It's good. It's fantastic. It's the most emotional ending for me, but the rest of the book is just... Now we come to the last one. Ooh, Wind the Truth. Oh, Wind the Truth. I enjoyed Wind the Truth a lot. I want to make sure that people know this. I enjoyed Wind and Truth a lot. And I have more than an hour and 15 minutes on YouTube of other videos of my opinion of it. But Wind of Truth, to summarize, was hurt by the 10-day structure, because when you're reading it, Do you think Adeline's dying day 2? No. Do you think Shallon's dying day 3? No. Do you think Sazeth is dying day 5 in his flashback? No. The stakes are just not high in the first 7 days because you know nothing big is gonna happen. It's 7 days in of a 10-day. We know by this time we know Brandon Sanderson. We know that he's gonna, not put much in the front and put everything in the back. Everything is at the ending. And with the 10-day structure, it really allowed him to do that. So there is a lot to... Okay, a lot is strong. There are 6 storylines, and I think 2 of them were amazing. And I thought the other ones all had brilliant moments of brilliance. But still, he drops the ball on what I felt on a lot of storylines. That's how I felt, personally. It's all subjective. And, I read a couple comments, people were like, characters don't act the way you think. And I'm like, yes, I felt that too. And because of that, Wind of Truth, while... has moments of brilliance and generally very good book, very good, very good. It is the weakest of the Stormlight Archives book. It is, in my opinion, just not on that level, just not the same as the other ones. It's still very good. It's still Stormlight. You know it. You can be like, but the phrasing, like I think at one point he's like, I didn't have a fling. I'm like, fling? Did they say fling in the Middle Ages? They did have things to even fling around. So there was like word, and I didn't like that. I just didn't. But it does have one of the best flashbacks, Sazeth. I don't think Sazeth is as good as Dalinar or Shallan, but maybe as close as Kaladin. My son's in the background, by the way. He's talking. But overall, there's good, but there's equal amounts of things I don't like about Wind and Truth, and that's why it goes last place. So if you're looking for numbers, because everyone's like, give me it to be out of 10. Oathbringer's 10 out of 10. I have no complaints about Oathbringer. I know some parts of it were slow, but you can't have a song all the way at max volume. There has to be a bit of dips and goes. Oathbringer's perfect. Way of Kings, 8.5 out of 10. The early parts are confusing, and I know we should rate it like, I rate it both as a first time and a repeat reader, and the first time it's too much, I felt, the beginning. And the Shan story, while good, is very separated, and that created a bit more confusion. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was as good as Kaladin and Dalinar's story. It was good, but it's not as good. So that's why I get 8.5. Words of Radiance, like 8.2. It's very close to Way of Kings. Great middle, great build-up. Love the start. Love the that we see more of the flashback. But the ending... was among the weakest endings to me. Even though I know a lot of people like it, it's just for me didn't feel that good. Then we have Rhythm of War. Rhythm of War is like 7.5 to 8. This again, so much of the ending is just so good that I'm able to almost ignore the rest of it. I'll be honest, when I read Rhythm of War, I'm like, Ishonai, we're skipping that. We're skipping first chapter of Shallan Shademar, we're skipping that. We chose. We're reading this part. We're reading We Chose. Don't worry about that. But for most of it, I'm just skipping because it's just not there for me. But still, despite that, it's one of the best. And then we have Wind and Truth, which is like, it's like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. It's, again, 6.5 is above. 5 is passable. 6.5 it's good, but it's not great and it's not excellent. So it comes in last place. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as you know, at the end we have to say like and subscribe and share. We'll see if that makes any difference, but thanks for tuning in, and see you around.